Hi, my name is Alexis, and I wanted to begin sharing my journey of dealing with a type 1 choledochal cyst. Because it is so rare, there's not a lot of information out there about it, and especially in adults. So I wanted to share my journey of it just in case anyone else gets diagnosed with it. So at the beginning of my journey with learning about this cyst, I was perfectly fine before all of this. I was healthy. So all of this was a shock to me, and I didn't know where or what happened for this to happen. But on Thanksgiving of last year, so November 23rd, 2017, I was woken out of my sleep at around 2 a.m. with what I thought to be was the worst pain of my life. It was a burning sensation and a tightness in my upper abdomen, and it was absolutely terrible. I milled around my parents' house for a little bit, just trying to see if it would go away. I was thinking maybe it was indigestion or just something that wasn't right. Tried using the restroom, that didn't help anything. Tried laying back down, that really didn't help anything. So after walking around trying to get everything back together for about 20 minutes, I woke my parents up and said we need to go to the ER because something's not right. So we're packing up, trying to get to the ER, driving there, get to the ER, get all checked in. Because of where the pain was and because of how I was explaining it, the ER did a EKG just to make sure everything's okay. And at this point, I'm not admitted into the ER or anything, so they tell me to go back and wait in the waiting room because my EKG looks fine. So from that point, I sit down for a little bit and I end up being sick. And after I threw up, I felt a lot better. That tightness, that burning, it was gone. So I'm sitting around with my family. We're waiting to be seen. And 3 o'clock rolls around, 4 o'clock rolls around, and it's like, I don't want to wait any longer because I'm feeling fine. So we end up going home, go about our day as usual. Thanksgiving Day, had food, everything was great. I felt fine. And I go on about my life. I come back to Kansas City where I live, and everything's fine. And then on November 26th, the pain comes back. So I mill around my apartment for a little bit, try sitting on my yoga ball, try going to the restroom. Nothing's helping because I'm thinking I'm having this same pain, so maybe once I throw up, I'll feel better. So I'm moving around, drinking water. Nothing's helping, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And at this point, I am sweating profusely because I don't know. So I'm on the phone with my mother and my father, and they tell me, okay, you're just gonna go to urgent care because we don't want to try the ER again because we don't know what's wrong. So I get to urgent care and explain the pain that I'm in, and they say because you're explaining it where it is, it's close to your heart, we don't deal with anything regarding the heart, so you need to go to an ER. So I drive myself to the ER. And within about 3 minutes, I'm in a bed at St. Joseph Hospital in Kansas City. So I'm getting hooked up to all these things. They're doing another EKG just to make sure everything's fine. They take my blood work. They ask for some history, and I go all into that. And the pain starts to subside. So I'm feeling a little bit better. So I'm like, okay, so maybe I came to the ER for no apparent reason. They get done with the EKG, everything's fine on that. They say they're gonna wait for my blood work and everything, so that's fine. I'm sitting in the bed, still going through insurance stuff, going through medical history, everything's fine. And then a doctor comes back and says, there's a level that's looking a little bit off with your liver, so I'm gonna go talk to another doctor and see if we need to admit you. And at this point, I'm like, oh, okay, so what could possibly be wrong? I don't know. So another couple of minutes go by. I'm trying to get on the phone with people to come and take care of my dog and everything because I don't know how long I'm going to be in this ER. I'm thinking I'm going to be going home within the next couple of minutes. They're going to check everything. I'm going to be fine. Then another doctor comes in and says that my lipase levels are a bit high, so they need to admit me. And at this point, I'm just completely confused as to what's going on. They order a CT scan. I'm like, okay, so we're going to go ahead and do that. So at this point, I'm admitted into the hospital. I can no longer drink any liquids, and I can no longer eat any foods because they do not know what's wrong. Going through all of these tests, I get the CT done, and then a couple of hours later, well, actually the next day, because I went in at around 6 p.m. on that Sunday night. The next day I go in and get an ultrasound, and by this time my parents have driven in from St. Louis because they don't want me in the hospital by myself. So I get the ultrasound done, and they see that I have a few gallstones. So at this point we're thinking, excuse me, something's going wrong with my gallbladder. And it's like, oh, okay, so what do we need to do about that? They say I have a few little stones, and that one of them was probably just trying to pass, and it should be fine. I should be okay. And then more time goes by, more time, and I have to go and get an MRI. So go through the MRI, and then I get taken back to my room, and I'm waiting for answers. And then that night, a doctor comes in and says, well, you have what is called a choledochal cyst. And unfortunately, we cannot treat you here at this hospital because you would need to see a specialist. And at that point, I was very shocked because I was not expecting to hear anything like that. Hearing the word rare, specialist, I just didn't know what was going on, but I'm a pretty calm person, so I'm like, okay, what do we need to do? And that doctor didn't give much information. My mother did not like him because he didn't give that much information, and understandably so. He was very vague about what was going on. But the next morning, another one of my doctors came in and just gave a very detailed explanation of who I need to see, what kind of doctor I need to see, how soon I need to see them. And they also put me on what they called a bland diet, so it wouldn't mess with whatever I had going on. So they tell me a little bit more about this choledochal cyst. They draw me a picture, and I'm still very confused because this is something that I'd never heard of before. And I get released from the hospital. I come back home, and on my bland diet, I just go about life as normal. Everything seems normal, but I do know that the only way this cyst can be taken care of is through surgery, and that's all that they said. I didn't know what kind of surgery, what all the surgery entailed. I didn't know any of that. I just knew it would mean surgery. So